Our data source is primarily the Department of Health data drop because the Department of Health is an aggregator. But we also use other sources of information, for example, local governments that we work with occasionally, or some local governments that we work with. And then other sources of information, such as sometimes we get access to hospital data because we have doctors who are members of the group.
Why is this suddenly an issue, or is it because you guys seem to be forecasting accurately and making people look bad?
Well, yeah, I will answer that first, Sita, and then you know, maybe Father Nick can chime in. But I'm not sure what the reason is. But you're correct. What I could say is that we have been, uh, you know, we have been doing this as public service to help the government specifically and the public, and the government has actually taken up this offer of our public service, in that not only in Laging Handa, but we're regularly interviewed in government radio and government stations.
Mhm.
So I'm actually, I mean, I consider myself a regular resource person for certain, government programs, and even they, at least the media, and most of our links are with media. They say that the reason they interview us, or they get us as resource, is because we're usually on the mark, and I think that makes sense. If you keep making proclamations and they don't come true, at some point people will stop listening to you. Sito, I mean, some people can call us alarmists, uh, but if you look at the relative number of people who do that, compared with the people who say that you know we, we're right, or they believe in our projections, these numbers, because it's all about the numbers, and are they based on science, and do they believe in it, and do they feel we're not alarmist? I mean, based on what I'm hearing, in fact, in terms of the media, uh, I would say 98, 99% of people in the media support us, that we're not alarmists. And there was actually a very good article written by Mr. Tiglao in the Manila Times, that you know the messaging is actually a function of media itself. And it goes, Sita, you interview me very often, and you ask me trends, and you can say, if you can determine if you think we are being alarmist or not. But when these messages are cascaded to the public, it's usually through the media. So what Mr. Tiglo is saying is that um, sometimes the media may be, I mean, not use it, of course, and maybe I'm not mentioning any specific media, but it is a function of the media how the messaging is translated to the public. We just present our figures, the trends, what we're seeing, and uh, and that.
I was honestly quite surprised. So I've been asking my friends back in the Philippines to help me understand the reasoning for this. Why now? I mean, we've been doing this for, well, I mean, I've been doing this for nearly 12 months, 14 months, and Guido has been doing this since the beginning. At every the different voices I have listened to in the Philippines have said one of two things: it's ego and politics. And so I'm just going to leave it to that. I'm a priest. I deal with broken human beings, and so that answer is very explanatory for me. There's ego back there somewhere, and there's politics back there somewhere. And our responsibility now is to be as transparent as possible, to speak truth as much as possible. And in my case, I have to pray for those who are critical of us, in the hope that we will attain some level of understanding that we are all trying to serve the Filipino people. We have nothing to hide. We have been transparent from the very beginning. we base our studies also. We get information on COVID, of course, from the published scientific literature from around the world, because we have to keep track of the most up-to-date science in order to make sure we understand, for example, the Delta variant.
Because the general impression is that, particularly coming from you, Guido, that the data that you base your work on is provided to you by the DOH. Is this provided to you by the DOH, or is it something you basically harvested from the announcements of the DOH?
So let me answer that. The DOH has a public data drop that is available to anyone in the world. So, for example, the Johns Hopkins COVID site, which tracks COVID in the Philippines, relies on the same data source. So, one of the things that I think we have to keep emphasizing is that DOH data drop is the official data of the Republic of the Philippines for the entire world. So that is the reason why we rely on that data. Now, this data is provided usually in Excel form. So we have to download that data source, and then we have to analyze that data in order to extract from that data the patterns and trends that we want to analyze.
Why do some people feel the need to investigate you, question, or understand your methodology? Has there been a real mistake, a real argument? Father Nick, you were about to respond.
So let me take that. This current situation began when one of our critics attacked the modeling techniques that Okta uses, and proposed that our approach to modeling and forecasting was erroneous because of the nature of the data we were looking at. And I think what you're seeing now is there are serious questions about how we do what we do. And I'm just going to echo my colleague Guido. I mean, biology is about patterns. And what we're looking for is we're looking at past historical patterns to anticipate the future behavior of a biological entity, in this case, a viral pandemic, in the short term. And one of the challenges we have is that there are limitations and shortcomings of the DOH data. And I think everyone is aware of this. When you're in the middle of the pandemic, especially when data is recorded by hand and by paper rather than by digital means, which is what is being done in other countries, you're going to have mistakes, you're going to have delays. And so we have been charged, one of our critics has complained that we are not aware of the shortcomings of this data. However, as Guido and I are exquisitely aware, we know of these problems, but there are ways that we can take into account the challenges of the flaws of the data in order to make sure that our forecasts are reasonable.